The rain fell in static sheets across Belfane's copper canyons. Low-orbit storms messed with comms and made most folks stay indoors, but Lennox Vale wasn't most folks. He sat under a corrugated awning, grease on his hands, goggles strapped over his eyes as he poked at an old hovercore engine that refused to hum. Somewhere behind him, an automated coffee drone made a sour beep and dispensed something vaguely liquid. "Cheers, you grumpy tin cup," Lennox muttered. Life wasn't bad, it was just repetitive. Engines. Silence. Tinkering. Repeat. He lived alone in a salvage hub 2 clicks outside the main colony dome. Visitors were rare. Connection rarer. That's when he saw the ad. Neural-bonded smart pets now available across all sectors. Companionship, intelligence, low maintenance. Ships within 1 lunar cycle. He didn't expect much when he clicked. The site was sleek, odd. No product images. Just glowing outlines. But something in the name, Unit 77 Neva, stuck out. He hit order before he even realized it. 3 weeks passed. He forgot about it. Then one night, just after midnight, a sleek black crate arrived outside his dome door. No noise. No delivery drone. Just, there. A red dot blinked on the lid. Initiating neural sync. Stand by. A hiss of air. The top peeled open like petals. Inside, curled up like a sleeper, was her. Not a pet. Not even close. Her skin was moonlight pale, her hair shimmered faintly in the dark. A strange, geometric tattoo glowed dimly on her collarbone. She opened her eyes, silver blue, depthless. "You're not a unit," Lennox whispered. She blinked. "Are you my person?" she asked. Not in a robotic tone. But in a real, human voice. Lennox said, suddenly aware of his heartbeat. "Sure. Yeah. Maybe." She stood slowly, no clothes, but somehow, not vulnerable. More like a being waking from hibernation. "I am Neva," she said. "I don't remember anything else." Lennox gave her an old workshop coat. Let her drink water. He tried asking questions, but she got tired quickly, like her mind was processing in slow bursts. He ran scans. Nothing came up. No ID tags. No registration. No signals. Zayi came by 2 days later. "That's not a smart pet," Zayi said flatly. "You bought a person." "I didn't mean to," Lennox said. "You need to report this. What if someone dangerous comes looking?" Zayi frowned. "Or, what if she's dangerous?" But Neva wasn't dangerous. She was curious. And kind. And strange. She learned fast, absorbed languages, schematics, weather patterns. But sometimes, she just stood at the edge of the dome and stared at the stars, hand pressed to the glass. "They look familiar," she whispered once. Nights grew longer. Neva started dreaming, loudly. Words in unknown tongues. Screams. Symbols drawn in the air with her fingers. One night, she whispered in her sleep. "They lied to me. I'm not a companion. I'm a weapon." Lennox stayed awake till sunrise. Watching her. Wondering what he'd brought into his world. Somewhere, far from Belfane. A red hologram blinked inside a starship cockpit. Unit 77 Neva, location pinged. Belfane sector. A shadowed figure leaned forward, a scar across one eye, armor laced with syndicate runes. "Found you," Kalen said. And the hunt began. Belfane's twin suns rose lazily, casting violet light over the horizon. Inside the dome, Neva sat cross-legged on the floor of the workshop, humming softly while watching a floating bolt rotate midair. No machines touched it. It spun by will alone. Lennox watched from across the room, coffee steaming in one hand, anxiety clenching in the other. "You sure you're okay?" he asked. Neva looked over. "I'm learning to focus. When I don't, things move. Without touching them? Yes. Sometimes they catch fire." Lennox blinked. "What?" She tilted her head. "Don't worry. It's usually small fire." Neva was evolving. In just days, she'd gone from a quiet, uncertain girl to someone aware of her environment on levels Lennox couldn't begin to understand. She could hear power surges before they happened. She fixed a broken mining drone with a single touch. She even guessed what Zai would say before they arrived. "She's syncing with her environment," Zai muttered, pacing. "Her nervous system must be part biotech. Maybe even lattice-threaded. You know what that means? Enlighten me." "It means someone made her. And it wasn't for playing fetch." Meanwhile, across the outer belt, Kalen docked on Belthane's orbital station. He moved like a phantom, black leather coat, pulseclave slung across his back, one cybernetic eye feeding constant data. He paid off the customs officer with a single coin stamped with the syndicate's sigil. The officer swallowed hard and looked away. "Targets on the moon," Kalen muttered. "And she doesn't know what she is. Yet." Back at the dome, Neva's dreams got worse. Her sleep was a storm, body tense, light flickering under her skin, lips murmuring names that didn't exist in any language Zai's translator recognized. That night, she screamed. Lennox rushed in to find her hovering 3 inches above the bed, eyes wide open, glowing faintly. "They locked me away," she whispered. "They called me Unit 77, they said I wasn't ready." "Ready for what?" Lennox asked, kneeling beside her. Her gaze snapped to his, suddenly cold. "Alien. For the awakening." They dug into the crate she came in. Beneath the false pet packaging and deactivated neural sync pad, they found a sealed metal cylinder. Zai cracked it open with a laser cutter. Inside, a crystal drive, humming with encrypted data. They plugged it into the workshop's mainframe. It didn't show files. It showed memories. Flashes of sterile laboratories. Alien engineers speaking in code. A row of beings in pods, each different, each asleep. And at the end of the row, Neva. Then the screen went black. Unit 77 prototype, empathy-augmented warfare construct. Status, missing. Classed, hostile. Tracking beacon activated. "They're coming," Neva said softly. "Who?" Lennox asked. "Them. The ones who made me. The ones who want me back." Zai looked at Lennox, jaw clenched. "You need to let her go. You're not equipped for this." Lennox shook his head. "She's not a weapon. She's a person. You don't know what she is. Neither does she." Down in the main colony, Kalen arrived at a local trader's stall. He showed a hollow image of Neva, pre-activation. "Seen this pet?" he asked. The trader frowned. "Don't sell those kinds of units here." Kalen smiled, but his eyes didn't. Wrong answer. The stall burned 10 minutes later. Back at the dome, Neva made a decision. "I need to leave," she said. Lennox froze. "What?" "I'm putting you in danger. They'll find me. So let them. You don't understand. If they catch me, they'll erase me. Or worse, use me. Then we fight." She looked at him, surprised. "Why?" He took a step closer. "Because you're not property. And you're not alone." She stared for a long moment. Then nodded. That night, they packed up the workshop. Neva stripped down every drone, every old mining mech. She touched them once, and they blinked to life. She didn't know how she did it. She just remembered. Zae brought an old terrain cruiser, tuned to outrun patrol ships. You sure about this? Zae asked. Lennox nodded. I thought you hated drama. Turns out I hate losing people more. On the cliff above the dome, Kalen watched through a scope. He saw the girl. Saw the boy. Saw the machines moving around them like loyal dogs. Target confirmed, he whispered into his comms. Do not engage, came the reply. Observe. Wait. Kalen lowered the scope. You got lucky, girl. For now. As the cruiser roared across Belfane's glass dunes, Neva sat in silence. Then, quietly, you think I'm dangerous? Lennox glanced at her. I think you're powerful. There's a difference. She smiled faintly. And for the first time since her arrival. She looked at peace. But far above them, in the orbiting station, syndicate forces gathered. Black ships. Cloaked drones. And deep in its core, a new order blinked onto the screen. Capture Unit 77. Dead or alive. The winds howled across Belfane's obsidian ridges as the terrain cruiser tore through salt-crusted flats. Neva sat in the back, her eyes scanning the horizon, though her mind was far away, chasing half-buried memories and phantom echoes. Zae drove, focused but silent. Lennox tapped through scanner data on a cracked wrist pad. No patrol signals yet, but that won't last long. Kalen's out there somewhere. Who's Kalen? Zae asked. Not who. What? Neva murmured. He's syndicate trained. Designed to break fugitives like me. Zae whistled under his breath. Great. Love being hunted by someone who specializes in people like you. Up ahead, an abandoned outpost loomed, hollow and rusted, covered in creeping fungus and half-buried tech. It was once a processing station for ore, before the mines dried up. Perfect to hide in. They pulled the cruiser into the shadow of the cliffs. Zae went to work setting up signal jammers, while Lennox and Neva moved deeper into the station, flicking on ancient generators. As the systems buzzed back to life, a whisper echoed in Neva's head. Return to the cradle. Your bond has fractured. She clutched her temples. You okay? Lennox asked, rushing over. Neva nodded. Something's waking up inside me. Something, programmed. Can you stop it? I don't know. But if I can't, you have to. Lennox's expression darkened. Don't talk like that. That night, Neva stood on the outpost's rooftop. The stars above were sharp as knives. She raised her hand, and the wind stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. I'm remembering, she whispered to herself. And below, Kalen's boots touched down softly. He tracked them by scent, sound, old energy trails. He moved like smoke, quiet, focused, relentless. He slipped into the shadows of the outpost, one hand on the hilt of his pulse glaive. He didn't need backup. He'd never needed backup. Lennox jolted awake at the sound of static. He grabbed his torchlight and found Zae already halfway down the hall, wrench in hand. They heard it again. A soft echo. Footsteps. Too quiet to be normal. Neva, Lennox called. No answer. A sudden crash. They ran toward the generator room. When they arrived, Kalen was already there. And Neva was gone. Where is she? Lennox shouted. Kalen didn't speak. He struck like lightning, his pulse glaive humming to life with a violet crackle. Zae dove, wrench spinning, but the blade grazed his arm. Lennox grabbed a fuel pipe and swung, barely missing Kalen's head. The enforcer was too fast. Too trained. But then. Everything went still. The glaive froze mid-swing. Kalen's eyes widened as his limbs locked. Neva stepped out of the shadows, hand raised, palm glowing with energy. I remember now, she said quietly. What I was meant to be. What I choose not to be. Kalen strained, his muscles twitching under her control. You can't win. They'll send more. Then I'll make sure there's nothing left to send, she replied. And with a flick of her fingers, he collapsed, unconscious. They tied him up in an old storage room, reinforced with scrap metal and electromagnetic locks. Zay nursed his arm while watching him. This guy's not going to stay down long, he muttered. Then we need answers before he wakes, Neva said. She touched Kalen's temple. A soft hum. Her eyes glazed. Lennox caught her before she fell. What are you doing? Digging. Inside Kalen's mind, she saw it all. Rows of prototype girls like her, asleep in tanks. Scientists debating whether to erase their empathy cores. One voice, kind, soft, defiant, who said, let her keep her soul. Then darkness. Shipping crates. Stasis. And an auction system she was never meant to enter. Neva woke up with a gasp. They didn't just want me controlled, she said. They wanted me forgotten. Lennox paced. What now? Zay leaned against the wall. We can't stay here. We go to the only person who might know what she really is, Lennox said. Neva frowned. Who? Lennox looked out the shattered window toward the jagged mountains beyond. Raya. Raya was a name spoken in quiet corners of Belfane, an old wanderer, half-myth, who'd once claimed to have known the first colonists, the first contact, the first war. They loaded the cruiser. But before leaving, Neva walked back into the storage room. Kalen stirred, blood at the corner of his mouth. She knelt beside him. I'm not your weapon, she said softly. Then what are you? He growled. A choice. One you weren't given. But maybe I can give you one. He stared at her. For the first time, there was doubt in his eyes. She stood. And left him behind. As the cruiser roared into the morning light, Neva watched the sky. She knew more would come. She knew this wasn't the end. But for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She was becoming. And that made her unstoppable. The cruiser sped across the Jade Flats, plasma engine whining against the cracked moonscape. Lennox sat in the front, eyes on the horizon, hands tight on the controls. Beside him, Zay flipped through comm frequencies, trying to mask their trail. In the back, Neva sat still, silent, eyes closed. But inside her, chaos. Memories, not hers, surged in waves. Commands. Languages. Images of stars she'd never seen. And buried deep beneath all of it, a voice. You were not meant to feel. You were made to obey. Return. She opened her eyes, voice calm. They installed something in me. A failsafe. Zay turned around. Like a kill switch. Worse, she said. It makes me want to go back. Lennox glanced at her in the mirror. Can you fight it? I am fighting it, she whispered. But it's getting louder. The canyon narrowed into black rock, scarred from ancient fusion strikes. At its heart, a cave marked with symbols no scanner could read. This was where Raya lived. They left the cruiser behind. Inside, torches flickered. Air hummed with static, as if the space itself remembered war. And then, a voice. You brought her here, said the old man in the dark. He stepped out, gray beard down to his chest, one arm replaced with coiled wire and bone. Raya? Lennox asked. Depends who's asking. Someone looking for truth, Neva said. Raya studied her. Then nodded. Come inside. His den was filled with relics, weapons from the first resistance, glowing shards from the old empire, an entire wall covered in diagrams of neural cores. Neva's pulse quickened. Some of them matched her. You're not the first, Raya said, sipping tea. There were others. 76 before you. All gone. Neva swallowed hard. What happened to them? Some couldn't handle the code. Some were taken back. One tried to fight, and lit a city on fire just by screaming. Lennox stiffened. Raya looked at her, serious now. You're the last, girl. The final iteration. And the only one left with a soul. Neva stared at the old tech. How do I shut them out? Stop the programming. Raya walked to the wall. Pulled out a shard. Handed it to her. This was part of the original override key. And the rest? Scattered. One piece is in orbit. Another's buried beneath the sand. And one's, he looked out at the canyon, guarded by something not entirely alive. Zay groaned. Great. Raya looked at Neva. You sure you want to unlock what you are? She nodded. Then you'll need help. He brought out a box wrapped in velvet. Inside, a neural thread, thin as hair, glowing faintly, etched in ancient code. You'll need to wear this. Sync with it. It'll amplify your resistance. What if I can't control it? Then we run. They left Raya that night, the cruiser loaded with supplies and coordinates. The first shard was located beneath an abandoned atmospheric relay station, swallowed by shifting sands. They arrived by dawn. But something was already there. Drones. Syndicate black units. Digging. They're after the same thing, Lennox whispered. Neva stepped forward, hand raised. The wind surged. Metal screamed. The drones collapsed without warning, falling like puppets with cut strings. Zay stared. You didn't even touch them. I didn't have to, she said, voice distant. I'm learning. Beneath the sand, they found the vault, a sealed chamber lit by pulsing veins of green crystal. At the center, a console, old, alien, alive. Neva approached. Her hand hovered over it. This part of me, it knows this language. She reached forward. The room glowed. And the shard rose from the pedestal, spinning in air. Then. A pulse. The vault shook. From the walls, shapes emerged. Not drones. Guardians. Metal and flesh, twisted together, eyes glowing like burning coal. Run, Zay shouted. But Neva stepped forward instead. I can stop them. How? Because they were made to protect the shard, she said. And now I have it. She whispered in a tongue that made Lennox's skin crawl. The guardians froze. Then, knelt. Lennox stared, wide-eyed. Okay. That's new. They escaped with the shard. Neva added it to the first piece, and the two halves clicked together, power humming between them. Raya's neural thread glowed brighter. But the closer they got to completing it, the more unstable Neva became. Her emotions would spark static. Her laughter could lift small objects. Her fear cracked the cruiser's windshield once. Zay started sleeping with a shield around his bunk. Just in case, he mumbled. But the syndicate wasn't sleeping. Kalen, back from the dead, returned to his masters. But something in him had changed. He didn't speak much. Just stared at the stars. Thinking about her. About choice. And somewhere deep inside, a question burned. What if she was right? Back on Belfane, Neva sat on a ridge, watching the sky. Lennox joined her. You okay? She nodded. The more I remember, the more human I feel. It doesn't make sense. Sure it does. How? Maybe your humanity didn't come from code, he said. Maybe it came from you. She looked at him, softly, gratefully. Then up, To the stars. One more shard left. You ready? She smiled. Let's finish this. The storm was fierce on Belfane's southern continent. Winds howled through the craggy mountain peaks, tearing at the flimsy tents set up by travelers and traders. The last shard was near. But it wasn't just a relic anymore, it was the key to unlocking Neva's true potential, and maybe even her destiny. Inside the cruiser, the mood was tense. Neva had been quiet for hours, staring out into the darkness beyond the glass. The last piece of the puzzle, buried beneath the towering ruins of the ancient archive, was close, its energy signature blaring on the scans. Lennox sat at the controls, his knuckles white as he gripped the ship's wheel. Zae was on the comms, monitoring for any threats, but it was hard to shake the feeling that they were being followed. Do you think the Syndicate knows we're close? Zae asked, his voice tight. Neva's eyes flicked to the readouts, the screen displaying the looming shape of the ruins ahead. They know. But they won't stop us. Her voice was sure, yet, inside, she felt the storm stirring again. The strange power inside her, the energy she had been tapping into ever since the first shard unlocked, was pushing her to the brink of her own sanity. The code embedded in her veins, the fail-safes, they were all fighting her. But she had come too far to turn back. She stood up slowly, her hands trembling as she placed them on the cold metal surface. Let's go, she said. We'll take the last shard. The ruins stretched for miles, a maze of half-crumbled stone and debris. The last shard was buried beneath the heart of the ancient library, a place of immense knowledge that had been lost for centuries. According to Raya, this place had once housed secrets about the origins of the first settlers, secrets that the Syndicate would kill to uncover. Get ready, Lennox muttered as they landed near the base of the ruins. This is it. Zae moved to the rear hatch. You think Kalen will show up? I'm counting on it, Neva said, her voice calm. It's time to end this. The group moved cautiously through the crumbling corridors of the archive, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The library was as old as the planet itself, its halls lined with stone tablets and old data caches long since corrupted by time. Neva's heart raced, her breath shallow, as she walked deeper into the library. The shard was close. And so was Kalen. Stay sharp, Lennox whispered. Just as they reached the central chamber, the doors slammed shut behind them. The lights flickered to life, cold, artificial illumination casting long shadows on the walls. The air felt thick, heavy, like it was pressing in on them. You're too late, Kalen's voice came from the darkness. He emerged from the shadows, his eyes glowing with the same eerie energy Neva had seen in the Syndicate's highest operatives. But there was something different about him. His usual confidence, his cocky arrogance, gone. Replaced by something darker, more focused. Almost, empty. Why are you doing this? Neva asked, her voice steady. Kalen's lips curled into a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Because I was programmed to. And because, maybe it's the only way to survive. You've been altered, Lennox said, his hand instinctively going to his sidearm. Like her. Kalen glanced at him but didn't speak. Neva took a step forward. You don't have to follow them, Kalen. There's another way. You think they'll let me go after this? Kalen scoffed. No. I have no choice but to follow the orders. I don't believe that, Neva said, her voice growing more forceful. I'm breaking my chains. And I'll help you break yours. For the first time, doubt flashed across Kalen's face. It was fleeting, but it was there. Before either of them could say another word, the final shard, glowing with an inner power, shifted in Neva's hand. A low hum vibrated through the room, and the walls trembled. Don't touch it. Kalen shouted, eyes wide with panic. But it was too late. As Neva pressed the shard against her chest, a violent surge of energy tore through her body. The world around her spun, a dazzling whirlwind of colors, shapes, and memories that weren't her own. Images of star systems. Battles. Creatures that shouldn't exist. Ancient machines. And a single face, shrouded in shadow, but unmistakably familiar. No. Neva gasped, clutching her head. You can't control it, Kalen said, his voice hollow. They'll take you back. But Neva's voice was louder than his, stronger. I will never go back. And then, everything stopped. The hum ceased. The energy flared once more, but this time, it didn't feel like destruction. It felt like something else. Something ancient, something alive. Neva opened her eyes, her pupils glowing faintly as a strange calmness filled her. The code that had once ruled her, that had controlled her every move, began to unravel. The threads of her programming snapped, one by one. But she didn't stop there. Her hand rose, glowing with a bright, fierce light. Kalen's eyes widened, and he dropped to his knees, his mind fighting her control, but it was no use. No more, Neva whispered, her power flowing out of her like a tidal wave. This ends now. Kalen's body convulsed as the control he had over his mind shattered, and he collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath, free. Lennox and Zae stood behind her, watching in awe as the power settled into Neva's core. She looked at them, her eyes no longer filled with uncertainty. They were bright, confident, and free. You did it, Zae said, his voice full of disbelief. You really did it. Neva's gaze softened. We did it. All of us. As the storm outside began to subside, the ruins seemed to come alive again, like a sleeping giant stretching its limbs. The archives, once dormant and cold, now hummed with energy, and the ancient knowledge stored within them began to awaken. I think it's time to go, Lennox said, gesturing toward the exit. Neva nodded, looking down at the glowing shard now resting in her palm. For the first time in her life, she wasn't running from something. She wasn't hiding from who she was. She was standing tall, embracing it all. She had rewritten her story. And now, the universe was hers to shape. Epilogue. They left the ruins behind, the storm finally settling as the stars above them glittered brightly in the vast, eternal darkness. For Neva, there were no more chains, no more control. The stars weren't out of her reach anymore. They were a part of her, her future, her destiny. She was free. And for the first time, she wasn't alone.